Welcome to the Warley Motor Railway Club virtual event, featuring club life, the exhibition and the exhibitors. We hope you enjoy this presentation.
Hello and a warm welcome to the Fourth Bridge. I'm Dave Watson. In today's video I'll be interviewing Simon Kohler of Hornby. I'll be asking him about Hornby's Centenary year and also probing a little into Simon's personal history at the Margate Company. Some of these questions have come from members of the Warley Club and Dean Park Station YouTube channel. Hope you enjoy the video. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the like icon. Viewers will have seen the recent Hornby magazine video where you gave us a fascinating historic tour of the Margate factory. If you'd worked on the factory floor when Hornby were still producing products at Margate, what job would you have most liked to have done?
Well, I have actually worked on the shop floor. We had a period in the 80s when we were working basically 24 hours, and so they asked a lot of the office staff after 5 o'clock if they could work through till 9 on the shop floor. So I was given various tasks. Interestingly enough, they wouldn't let me anywhere near a loco, so they gave me jobs such as sitting by a big press called a Norton, and it was continually bashing out scale electric track pieces, and so you had to collect all those up. You cut your hands and all the rest of it because it was sharp edges. But I thought that was good. That would probably have made me deaf after a little while because it was such a noisy process. So the other jobs were checking dimensions on scale electric wheels and things like that. So, I mean, what would I have liked to have done? Probably, I think it was a skill. I mean, it was an old-fashioned skill, but I did like the way the ladies used to put pen lining, the boiler bands, on using a pen liner. I thought that was quite skillful. I wouldn't mind having a go at that. But spraying was good. I'd love to do a bit of spraying.
You have in the past referred to live steam as one of your proudest achievements at Hornby. However, thinking solely about the 2020 Centenary range, what would be your personal favourite announcement of this year and why?
Well, this is a question I've been asked several times, and normally, it has to be, a bit of a cop-out because, there's a lot in the range. If we're talking about the Centenary range, there's a lot there that has got, personal, gives me a lot of enjoyment that, you think of something and you see it come through to fruition. So I think the rocket was good. Rocket was planned at least 2 years ago. I think I signed the Billy Do for that in 2018. So it was great because that was a wonderful piece of engineering achievement. Particularly like the Duchess of Athol, the Hornby 00, the die-cast body that came through, and I think that was very relevant for the for that specific decade and for what we were trying to celebrate. And of course the tin plate. I mean, that was that's a bit of a gamble. There's a lot of money you outlay there. It's not your traditional scale. So I mean that was good that he got picked up on. In fact, the whole range, whole selection got picked up on. So I'm pleased with it all. But if you were to try and nail me down, I'd probably say the Duchess of Athol die-cast Hornby 00 because there's a lot of memories in that.
Tooling a new model is an expensive investment. Can you give us a brief insight into what the tooling process involves? And how many years or runs can you realistically expect to get from a mould? And has there been any cases in the past where you've simply worn out a mould from constant or regular use?
Well, the process is it's fairly straightforward. You know, you come up with a model you want to produce. So we've done the research, and you know you look at the number of variances and differences you can put into the tooling. That's all drawn, all done on CAD these days, and all the various changes, etc. And then those drawings are sent over digitally to the tool maker, and they examine the drawings. They work out the tooling. We've given them an idea of the number of tools we're looking at, so they're aware of that, and then they piece their costs together, and then they ship them over to us. The costs, I then have to justify whether my market plan for the next few years will cover the cost of that tooling, and hopefully it does, else I'm in trouble. So yeah, no, that's the simple process, and once that's done, we all sign the billy-do, and the tooling starts. We use very high-grade steel, low-cost steel. Really doesn't pay for itself. So if you pay for the best, you get the best shots. And the number of shots you can get off a tool, it runs into thousands and thousands before you start to have to make changes or clean the tool up or whatever, or even replace the tool. You know, there will be tooling that does need replacing, but it'll be on something, you know, where we shoot, you know, thousands upon thousands. So it could be track tooling, it could be specific wagon chassis that we use a lot of, but because obviously we use, you know, top grade steel, that doesn't happen very often.
So Simon, would Hornby consider producing a range of 1 to 76 scale buildings specifically designed for British image model railways? This perhaps could be launched under the Airfix brand and would allow modellers to easily personalise kits to suit their own layout.
Yeah, I think actually Airfix did that back in the 50s. I think I have tried it over the years, and we did produce some plastic kits with Kohler, which is now owned by Fowler, back in the 80s, early 90s. And they were quite popular to begin with. And then, you know, costs got involved, etc. Now, strangely enough, those are now being produced and distributed by Gagemaster. So a lot of the buildings there are sort of modelled on houses and buildings that are in this area, this Thanet area. I'm always open to such suggestions and always happy to look at it, but at the moment I don't get the vibes. I think, you know, people these days, a lot of modellers these days, like to have such things probably finished. That's the impression I get. Now, I could be wrong, and I'm quite happy to be wrong. And if people want to write in and tell me I'm wrong, that's fine. But, you know, one of the reasons I think Scaledale is so popular is because it's finished. Or it's finished to a level, and then a modeller can enhance it. But, you know, it's out of the box and on the layout.
The world of O-Gauge is growing in popularity, with a steady stream of ready-to-run models being produced. What are your thoughts as to why there's a surge in this growth? And would Hornby ever consider producing some of its popular double O-Gauge locomotives in O-Gauge?
Good question. Why? I mean, it's you know, we have to look at volume, and we have to, you know, the tooling isn't cheap, as I probably intimated earlier. So you have to look at it, and you have to think, well, how many can I produce? What's the market out there like? And will it support the cost involved? I'm not convinced for Hornby that we would cover the cost. For smaller companies, different overheads, etc., it probably works. I think O-Gauge is terrific. Of course, you need a lot of space. But then again, I think there's a lot of people probably buy it and like to have it on the shelf. I never say never. So, one day, we might just have a look and surprise everybody.
The technology inside model locomotives is constantly improving, with ready-to-run models being released with the next generation of multi-pin decoders, allowing vastly increased functionality. Hornby has traditionally used 8-pin sockets and decoders. Is there any specific reasons for using the 8-pin, and will Hornby be incorporating the next generation of decoders in any of their future locomotive releases?
Right, I never say what we're going to do in the future. What I will say is I am aware of the changes and the different number of pins, etc. So we have, as you say, traditionally used 8-pin. That doesn't necessarily mean we're blind to other things, but I am aware that 21-pin is popular, certainly in Europe, and we use 21-pin sockets in our European locos. In the future, who's to say? But there are other pinned decoders out there, and it's ever so easy. You can jump, say, to 21, and all of a sudden the 18-pin comes in, or whatever. So we're watching it very carefully.
Hornby has a vast range of products. What would you say are your key products, ones that Hornby are renowned for producing?
God, dear me, where do I start? I honestly, I really don't know. I suppose, from a youngster's point of view, and judging by the popularity of Smoky Joe that we had in our collection, I suppose, people, think of Smoky Joe, their first little loco. Before Smoky Joe, it was a little 040 called Nellie, Connie, etc. Flying Scotsman of all different shapes, sizes and prices that we have produced. I don't know. I mean, there's if you were to ask, one particular loco that we'd be known for, probably would be Flying Scotsman, I would think. But of course, that's with everybody. It's not that's not really an easy question to answer. So I'm going to cheat and say, okay, Flying Scotsman. But of course, we do have quite a few others.
Well, thanks for all those answers, Simon. It always is fascinating to hear what you've got to say about Hornby and the wider hobby. The final question I'd like to put to you is, I'd like to have a think through the decades you've spent at Hornby. What decade or time would you pick out as being your favourite, and what would you pick out as being your least favourite?
I think the favourite, or the favourite time, was probably now, because we're here to do a job, and we're progressing, and it is working. I don't think it's difficult to say what's the worst period or the worst decade, because I think life is full of learning. So it could be that I may not have been overly happy what was happening with the brand, and Hornby, from the railway aspect, has always been very precious to me. And there were times when I was disappointed in some of the senior management's decisions, but it's a learning curve, and these things that are thrown at you, you tackle them head on, and you work with it, and you live with it. You do the best you can. I honestly, and I've said this on more than one occasion, I don't believe I've ever woken up in the morning and thought, I don't want to go to work. There have been times when I might have had sleepless nights. There have been times when I'd got a meeting the next morning I wasn't overly fond of. But I always had in the back of my mind, if it involved a particular chief exec or whatever, that person wouldn't be there forever. And you know what? They weren't. But no, I've not really had. I mean, it's been great. It's been learning. I've done so much, and people coming into this business now will miss all that sort of training. Now, we were doing stuff before, computers. In fact, I think I was the second person at Hornby to actually have a computer. And before then, if I was doing what we call line plans with all the figures, I'd have these great accountancy sheets, which would be full of figures, and you'd change a figure, and you have to rub it out, all done in pencil, rub it out, and then you'd have to put a new figure and then add it all up again, and then turn over loads more pages and change the total and all the rest of it. And I was over the moon when we had this thing called Lotus 123, which was all on computer. And I could change this figure, press a button, and bang, it was, this is marvellous. But, I mean, that's just part of your education as you go through your work life. Selling dolls, I mean, walking around in a busy toy fair, as I have done, carrying a doll that's crying and wetting, and talking to people, and you could say, well, really? But you were talking to people, you were communicating to people. People would pull your leg, but again, it's part and parcel of the job, and you learn. So you take the rough with the smooth, I suppose, and make the most of it. So that's probably what I've done. But I love every minute, really. Some love more than others.
Well, that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'd like to thank Simon and the team down at Margate for giving up their time to answer the questions in what is obviously a very busy centenary year for Hornby. This has been a production for the Warley Club virtual exhibition. I'm Dave Watson. Thanks for now.
Thanks for watching this presentation. We would like to thank our sponsors and the exhibitors for supporting this event. If you require further information or useful links, have a look at the video's description. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you when we are back at the NEC on the 27th and 28th of November 2021.